friends. I was practicing a day or two ago, and I happened to remember something that Madeline said in I think it might have been my last lesson or a recent one, that really, it's like I was remembering it in the context of practicing and in the context of piano, but then I immediately realized, like, it was like I heard it anew. I heard it for the second time, sort of in my mind, and I was like, whoa, that was a profound thing she said, that I had sort of not quite caught the full import of the first time that she actually said it. So so basically what it was is, she said, we were talking about piano technique and the nature of the physical relationship to the keyboard and what that involves, and it was one of the etudes we were working on. And she said, that people try all different approaches to get security. In other words, the feeling of the hands really being connected to the keyboard and knowing what's coming next. Knowing that we're secure in our navigation of a passage or a piece. And she said, but the only thing that really gives security is sensitivity. She said it all happens right here in the pads of the fingers. That's the whole thing. That sensitivity is the only security, the only reliable security. And I thought, wow, sensitivity is the only security. That's big. And it has a number of very immediate applications to piano, and in the way that I have been practicing recently, I've kept that statement kind of front and center, and it's really interesting what happens when we shift our focus from thinking there's some physical or technical thing doing it a certain way, a movement or whatever, that's going to give me security in a passage, versus just putting all my focus into feeling the keys, feeling my way through the passage. I was playing something, and the thing is, that doesn't mean that there aren't a whole bunch of other really important technical elements to consider. The wrist movement, the arm movement, the position of the back and the position of the head, and all these components. It just means that all of that is in service of a very tightly focused sensitivity. And without that sensitivity, none of those other things will really be reliable. So not that they won't work. You can play piano without being sensitive. I've done it and I've seen it done. But what she's talking about and what I'm really after is a level of playing and a way of playing that truly, where I am truly connected deeply from the core of me to the instrument, and what's there can come out, and that requires it's like it can't just be like one little wire. It's got to be a whole, like superconductor cable. There's got to be bandwidth to that channel. And what I often notice is, this has happened to me a couple times in performance on piano, is that I'll get into a performance and I'll find that all of a sudden I have energy flowing through me. It's like, and sometimes it feels like nerves, but even when I'm able to recognize, because that's kind of like one of the first symptoms of the channel not being quite open, is like we just feel nervous, and it's like, oh my God, what's all this energy? And we take the energy to mean something's wrong, we're nervous, whatever. But even once I've figured out, no, this is not, like, yes, okay, it's manifesting as nerves, but this is just energy. The reason why the nerves are there is because there's energy trying to pour through me. It's inspiration. It's all of a sudden the intensity of being in front of an audience creates a relationship to the music where I understand what's being communicated. It's like I connect with what's being communicated on a much deeper level. But then I'm not able, this is an experience I've had in the past, I've been unable to handle that energy. That energy then is so powerful and so like, it's like a dam breaking, and I don't have the structure in place to channel that energy into the music. So it kind of like runs over. It's like a river that runs over the banks. And the piece gets out of control or whatever, and then it's a whole slew of things. Then it's like once it gets out of control, then you start making mistakes. Then the mistakes convince you that you don't know it, and there's a whole kind of thing that happens psychologically that can't happen. Doesn't have to happen, but anyway, it's all about what I've kind of really gained an appreciation for is the fact that sensitivity is the only security. That's the portal being open. If that connection never goes away, then if that connection is my focus in practice, then what's coming through me will be the channel will be gradually widening, opening, and creating not just a way for that energy to flow through, but a way for that energy to flow through with some measure of control and some measure of capacity to channel it, rather than just be overwhelmed by it, which I've had that experience, and I'm sure any number of pianists and other musicians have all had that experience. But then there's a level to this statement, sensitivity is the only security, that I felt like goes way beyond piano. I remember a spiritual teacher that I heard a number of years ago at one point talked about the spiritual path, or a spiritual orientation to life being involving a willingness to be, it was like he described it as something like finding security within insecurity, or he described it as being continually and kind of being okay with the existential insecurity of existence, like understanding that and understanding it and being okay with it, surrendering to that insecurity. And because in that insecurity, it's kind of like knowing, here we are on a rock hurtling through space. There's literally no guarantee of what will happen next. Life itself is so precarious, such an infinite number of delicately balanced factors have created the possibility for life and sustained life on this planet, and at this point, very high order life, very high order consciousness in these living beings running around this planet. If we could actually perceive, if we could see through all of our conditioning and actually perceive the kind of the incredible precariousness of that and the incredible delicacy of it, we would be in a constant state of total insecurity, but not in a negative way, not in the way of like we would want to go home and lie under a blanket and not talk to anybody and just be afraid of the world, but in the way that appreciates how profoundly significant and how profoundly blessed we are, how amazing life is, what a remarkable situation we're in to be alive in this universe. And that sense of like being sensitive, being available, being connected to life, not being numb, not numbing ourselves to any of that incredible awesomeness, is how we find surrender to it, and how we instead of incurring enormous amounts of stress due to the precariousness of it, instead really connecting with and digesting and coming into alignment with the incredible intricacy and delicacy and power of the universe. And then there's security, and through that we find a completely different kind of security. It's not a security that thinks nothing bad can happen, or a security that thinks we are safe, that we can be complacently safe. We don't have to worry about our safety. It's not that kind of security. It's a security that acknowledges literally anything can happen in any moment. What a privilege to be here. And can live with that, but as a result, our experiences heighten, our sensitivity heightens, our listening to the world heightens, our listening to other people heightens. Everything about being a conscious entity expands and deepens through that connection. And it's the only, and this is kind of, I think, what I was kind of fumbling to try and articulate, that the spiritual teacher was saying a number of years ago, is like, that's security. That willingness to embrace the complexity of the world and the incredible intricacy of it, and the kind of the fact that we're always such a small part of it. Accepting that gives us a different. It's not just a different level of security; it's a different kind of security. It's a whole other ball of wax. So that's kind of where I landed this morning, reflecting on this. Thanks for watching, people. Love you. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.